Kristallnacht. The word itself sounds like broken glass. The word that describes the night that began a reign of terror over 80 years ago. Over 80 years ago, Kristallnacht began. And yet the problems that underlay that night still persist. Dr. Mark Zvi Brettler is a professor of Hebrew Bible at Duke University. He teaches what we call Old Testament to majority Christian students, and he himself is Jewish. He wrote an article 2 months ago about what he is seeing in student posts in his class this year and how that is different from what he's seen in previous years. This year, students post about the angry God of the Old Testament. They also post calling the Hebrew scriptures hypocritical. And even when Brettler, as the professor, points out the problems, the posts still persist. This is 2 months ago. Brettler scanned his colleagues and asked what they were experiencing and found similar issues in their classrooms as well. For some reason, the problems that underlay Kristallnacht seem to be rearing their heads now. And it goes even deeper. A year ago, my husband and I were having supper with friends. New to our church, they were excited to learn all that they could about this new tradition. And one of them went online and bought several of Luther's treatises to read. With one, and he brought it out. It was a slim volume titled The Jews and Their Lies, written by Martin Luther in the 1500s. We discussed it, we lamented it, and out of curiosity, I flipped to the back of the book to see who had published it, without any context or without any of others' writings from Luther. There was no publication information on the back. I moved to the front, inside cover, and those first few pages, which can typically be used to trace a book's origins. There was nothing there either. All that there was a preface that spanned a few pages and was summed up by its final line. This book is being disseminated so that we might know that we are not the first generation to deal with the problem of the Jews. Signed, the publishers. The problems that underlay Kristallnacht still persist today. And what is our response? To the casual anti-Semitism of Dr. Brettler's students, our first reaction might be, but they're ignorant students. That's why they're at school. To the story of Luther's tract being disseminated, we might say, but those are the crazy Christians. The majority of Christians are not like that. And to the events of Kristallnacht over 80 years ago, we might protest, but that was so very long ago. And to all three, we might say, but what are we to do? A recent article by Denise Rector, a PhD candidate at the Lutheran School of Theology in Chicago, offers one way forward. Rector's article is titled, Race and the Gift of Lament. The first half of her article focuses on slavery, African American treatment, and the Lutheran Church in the history of the United States. It is, as one might expect, a dismal history. In response to these disparities, to these injustices of race relations in the Lutheran Church, Rector offers one possible way forward, a response that she calls the theological work of lament. Conversations about racial reconciliation, Rector says, typically want to begin with confession and repentance, but Rector views that as the second step. Instead, the first, she argues, must be lament, and I quote her here. Lament is an act that responds to what has been broken in relationship with the other. And also, lament is a gift that the church can employ as a way to call a thing what it is, even a regrettable and hurtful thing, without allowing questions of guilt, fault, or responsibility to become a barrier to the conversation. Rector's article deals with the issues of racial inequality in the United States today, but her conclusions can just as easily and just as productively be applied to the question of how we, as modern people, especially those of us who are modern Christians, might commemorate and respond to Kristallnacht. Rector writes this: in lament, the ecclesia bears in and on its heart the emotional and spiritual costs of racial inequality, and then brings that pain before God. One might, with appreciation, amend her words for this commemoration as follows. In lament, the community bears in and on its heart the emotional and spiritual costs of Kristallnacht, and then brings that pain before God. So is the work to which we are called, and so is the work we do together this evening.